Testing.
Testing. Is this working, Bill?
No, actually, I had taken 3 pictures. I used 2 for this, and I used the other one for my picture. Probably should have first.
There's so many people that you should try to see them trying to do they just don't know.
Every time they say, if you want to comment on this, I should. I just don't have time right now.
Test.
So,
I don't mean those, I mean people I'm following,
yeah.
or maybe following me. Have you ever done one of those that pops up with the 3?
Yeah.
I've never done one.
I've done them a couple of times.
Yeah.
But not very often, unfortunately. I should. I was in a thing called DP Challenge, and they would, the same idea that you get a topic and you had a certain amount of time to get something in, and then they wanted you to comment. And I was really trying to be very conscientious and it is. It's very time consuming.
I should be working on my schedule. I'm actually thinking I signed up for a free webinar by Tim Gray. You ever follow him?
Yeah.
He's doing a webinar, I think it's Monday, on comparing Lightroom Classic and Bridge.
Okay.
I'll listen to it.
He's very good, except he's got a very monotone voice. He
Yeah.
kind of tends to put you to sleep.
I haven't listened to him many times. I follow his email. His email. And I still got that thing on Lightroom. I haven't, Lightroom regular that I haven't started. Or I started and haven't finished it.
Yeah.
Did you ever do any of those?
The virtual summits.
Yeah, or the thing comparing, this is like a tutorial that you pay for, comparing Lightroom Classic to Lightroom.
I've done other tutorials. I've got some Blake Rudis stuff, and I've gone through that. And then I do the virtual summits every year. I go into either Photoshop or Lightroom or a combination of
Those
both.
are kind of pricey, aren't they?
Yeah, they're about $100, but you get 40. You get 40 classes basically.
You can do them,
Per day. Well, I know.
you can do them free also.
You can do a lot of things. Oh yeah, you can do
You can do the virtual summit free.
but you have to do it within 2 days.
You have to do it within 2 days. And yeah,
Yeah, who's got time to sit there and watch 8 hours worth of video for 5 straight days? So I a couple of years ago I started just paying for it. I forget $100 for 40 classes. That's $2 a class. $3 a class. So it's worth it. I've got classes from 3 or 4 years ago that I haven't even looked at yet. But I go through and pick out the people that I think are going to give me the most, and the topic is good. So it's been worth it.
what I found is that there's probably only a couple of sessions that I want to watch each day in the virtual, so I don't necessarily watch them all.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of pick and choose. I look at who the instructor is, what the topic is, and I kind of do those first, and then some of them I'll say, I'm really not interested in that, so I don't look at them unless I'm looking for something to do someplace.
No.
And I feel bad about that too, because I got one of my things is going in the next exhibit. They're all Sundays, and I'm busy. So
Yeah.
I hang out with them. I mean,
I know I'm supposed to help strike a little bit of and they was doing Sunday. I'm busy. In fact, I've taken fundamentals 3 times a year. I'll skip church and go to fundamentals field trip because it's just such a connection with the students.
I'll let Jen know. I'm going to see her tomorrow. I'll get up here and meet her up here tomorrow for a few minutes. I'll let her know that you're coming.
Yeah, I was going to send her some. I don't know what else I can do because it looks like everything's done on Sunday.
Which one is this? From Beechwood. We don't have to have that in until March. Yeah.
Yeah, but she said that, all the literature out, and I'm looking for dates to reserve.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome everybody. Tonight is our black and white and pictorial projection competition, and we'll get underway. First, our routine
Friday announcements. Coming up is February 9th, which is next Friday, is our bee competition, and it'll be print this time. The deadline for that is the night of the competition, so we encourage, everyone to enter. And because the judging is on site that night, we will have a talk beforehand while the judges are judging, and we're lucky enough to have our own Eric Wethington, who's going to talk. He's going to bring a lot of trinkets from Dodd Company. He works for Dodds, and the accessories you didn't know you needed or even existed. And so Eric will be talking next week while the judges are judging. The week after, February 16th, photojournalism night, not actually a competition. You can submit up to 5 images. That's always fun. Deadline is usually the Wednesday, the week before. A great Zoom presentation coming up February 23rd. This is Joe Edelman, who did the original. It got my attention with his Critiques Suck. Thing he did for us back about 3 years ago, and I still watch that occasionally. He's a really great lecturer, too, knows an awful lot. He's going to be talking about DIY photo accessories on a budget. It'll be a Zoom presentation for all members. The clubhouse will be open as well. Rescheduled due to the snow, the nature competition, which was a few weeks ago, and we canceled, is rescheduled for March 22nd, so that's on the calendar, and that'll be the print competition. Also, upcoming May 3rd, I know that's a good distance away, but I want you to save your calendar to start thinking about this. It's our first phone competition. It's going to be a projection competition. It's not part of the competition season. So we'll be judging it with our own members or whatnot. But it's a way we're going to start to get the club into phone photography. And remember, I said, not only are there a lot of people who are not photographers who are interested in using their phone, but each one of us are going to be in situations with our Canons or Nikons or whatnot that we will be around. There'll be a really interesting picture, but we don't have our cameras. So with the phones as good as they are nowadays, and with the software as good as it is, and the up-resing programs as good as they are, it is amazing what you can get. So we're going to have our first annual phone competition coming up May 3rd. So start working with your phone, taking it out, stop making those phone calls, and start taking pictures with it. And we are also going to have several speakers around that time talking about phone photography. That's coming up in May. What I forgot tonight, my slides got a little goofed up, is the next SIG meeting, which will come up the first Thursday of March, is going to be announced. I'll announce it next week when we have a topic. Dave forgot to pick a topic last time, so we'll know that soon. It'll be on the website. Coming up then also, March 1st is our creative night. It's a print competition, and beforehand, because it is a print competition, this is March 1st, and they needed a speaker and couldn't find one, that I will be talking. I'm going to be talking on photographing the Kingdom of Jordan. It's just a little 30-minute presentation while the judges are working. As always, all of our public meetings are on our YouTube channel. You get to it by going to the homepage of the website, clicking in the upper right on the YouTube icon. When you get to the YouTube channel, click on Live, and you will see all of our live meetings, or all of our public meetings there. Remember, the Zoom presentations are on the website under the members-only content, because they didn't want their stuff out over the web. So, with all of that, let's get on to our competition tonight. So, let me first introduce the judges. Our first set of judges are Lisa and Tom Kuchara. Lisa and Tom are known for their expertise in photography and in Photoshop, and for their inspirational and informative photography workshops. They are also OM System ambassadors and lead tours in the USA. They also lead tours abroad for Wild Side nature tours. They both have created numerous award-winning photographic images and enjoy sharing their vision, passion, and knowledge with other people. They have published 2 books with Amherst Media. Create Fine Art Photographs from Historic Places and Rusty Things is about their HDR and light-painted images, while The Frog Whisperer is about close-up and macro photography. And our other judge is Ron Gout. Ron Gout discovered the outdoors at an early age and developed a deep passion for wilderness and photography. Not surprising, with Ron's 30-year engineering background and thirst to learn about the photographic process in the early 1990s, he began to experiment with many different films, developers, silver papers, and alternative processes. He qualified much of his work by sensitometric analysis to determine the film developer and paper developer combination properties for different film and paper development methods, submitting the results as thesis papers at a local college. Influenced in his early work by Ansel Adams, John Sexton, and Lynn Radecka, and other contemporary West Coast landscape masters, Ron traveled and photographed the Southwest with his 4x5 view cameras, particularly Death Valley. Death Valley is probably the most dynamic and diverse national park in America, he says. It's like a big, beautiful painting. You could sit and stare for hours picking out all the different pieces. Ron's style reflects his feelings about Death Valley. He enjoys photographing the intimate details of that landscape. Ron uses Lightroom for global adjustments and Photoshop to fine-tune his images before printing. He has firmly established himself as an accomplished photographer and printer, receiving awards and accolades from critics and through photography competitions. So those are our judges for tonight. And so with that, let's get on to the images. Okay, our first image.
Lisa says, this image has a lot of impact. The black and white treatment enhances the appeal. The far left black vertical distracts from the Escher-like quality of the image. Cropping that out or using content-aware fill or generative fill would allow the image to have more impact.
Glenn Petranek, Abandoned Stairwell, 22 points.
Do we have a comment on this one?
Tom, who's reading for Tom?
We'll have our comment in a second.
Tom says, I like the juxtaposition between the black and the white. There is detail in the white icebergs. What would make this a stronger image is crop some black off the bottom and white off the top. The action interest is the iceberg and wispy water. There's too much negative space in all the black and white.
Natalie Souza, Black Diamonds, 18 points.
I like the narrative, Ron says. Everyone's attention is directed to the same point. We don't know what it is, but that adds to the narrative. It certainly makes the viewers think, and that's an important concept in producing a good photograph. Technically, the photo is well made. Nice midtones. I am a bit distracted by the very bright background behind the guys. If that could be toned down, it would improve the photo. Bring the attention where it should be, with the people.
John Paganini, Bocce Boys, 19 points.
According to Lisa, the subject matter and treatment of the subject matter just makes the viewer to become completely immersed in this image. Like falling down the rabbit hole with Alice, I am completely immersed in this image. Our eye is drawn to the brightest parts of the image, which is also the sharpest part of the image. The maker has darkened the image, enhancing the viewer's enjoyment. To improve, Focus stacking or more depth of field would allow all of the sawtooths of all of the leaves to be sharp. The frontmost leaf being soft is the hardest to contend with. The ones on the side and rear are not as vital, so perhaps just stopping down or more depth of field if the maker did not want to focus stack this wonderful plant.
Marge Brady, cactus in black and white, 23 points.
Tom's comment: love the wispy water in this waterfall picture. The maker has a clear understanding of how to create a nice waterfall effect using a slow shutter speed. The waterfall's too large in the frame and dominates the overall feel. I would suggest shooting wide to include the bottom or any rock or tree to break up the pattern of the waterfall.
Bill Keaton, Cascades, 21 points.
Ron says, fascinating building, and so many triangles and rectangles. The triangle is a compositional element that has been used in visual art throughout history. To some, shapes arranged as a triangle exude peace, while the symmetry conveys clarity and harmony. From a technical standpoint, I find this image overprocessed, too much contrast. The shadows need to be opened and the contrast reduced. I understand that the photographer may like it this way, but I find that harsh-looking photos may initially attract the viewer's attention, but over time, the viewer can become fatigued.
Mike Kopkas, Copper Top, 22 points.
Lisa says, what action? The maker should be commended for the patience and timing to capture the peak action. Wow. As captivating as the image is, the large amount of white, bright white, pulls the viewer's eyes away, not allowing the viewer to stay on this wonderful moment.
Dave Sabork, Coyote, 24 points, third place.
Yay.
Tom's comment: I love the diagonal composition and black and white effect of this image. The image is sharp and you can see plenty of detail in the wood from the front to the back. I would suggest the maker crop this image to only include the left arch and not include the modern guardrail. Tone down the brightest parts of the scene.
John Paganini, Curved Wood, 23 points.
Beautiful photograph, Ron says. I love that the center of the flower is located in the upper left quadrant of the photo and not the center of the photo. Well placed. Lovely midtones. Everything radiates from the center of the flower. I wonder if it was toned. I often use the color balance tool in Photoshop to add a little magenta and yellow. It does a good job replicating silver gelatin paper that's been toned in selenium.
Ron Werman, Dahlia, 26 points, first place.
No. Lisa says, the maker noticed an interesting tree with a wonderful reflection. Like Thing's hand from the Addams family, it touches the surface ever so tauntingly. The maker has a keen eye to notice a subject such as this. The maker attempted to remove as much distracting elements as possible by the panoramic crop. But the top still distracts the viewer, as does the bright white reflecting sky. Darkening the grass at the top slightly would help improve the image, as would darkening the bright water a tad. FYI, flipping the image upside down, placing the sky at the top, might also be a fun altered reality for this image.
Joseph Miko, Driftwood from a Storm, 20 points.
Tom's comment, this is a great capture. The maker showed how well they could track this puppy and still maintain sharpness of the eyes and body. The ears flapping in the air creates a wonderful dynamic in action. I would recommend for the maker to crop from the right side of the picture. There is just a little too much snow.
Joe Smith, Euphoria, 24 points, third place.
Ron says this is a nice arrangement of sunflowers. They form a triangle which is visually appealing. I would like this image more if it wasn't overprocessed. Flowers are supposed to be delicate looking, soft midtones and open shadows. I hope the photographer considers reprocessing it. As a general rule, always go easy on the sliders in the beginning. Start with low contrast, then step away and find something else to work on, or refocus your eyes on something neutral like a wall in a room you're working in. That gives your eyes and brain a chance to reset. Return to the photo and slowly increase the contrast, being careful not to overdo it. Going backwards is extremely difficult. Have fun.
Jane Sidney, Fall Bouquet, 22 points.
This image captures a moodiness which resonates well beyond the frame, says Lisa. The fog, the monochrome, the lonely empty bench create a feeling from the image. The maker also chose to use the almost silhouetted trees to frame the image, which keeps us engaged in the scene. Perhaps toning down or cropping off the very top bright white pixel area might improve by giving us nothing to lead us out of the frame.
Glenn Petranik, Foggy Pond, 24 points, third place.
Tom's comment. This image is sharp and detailed. The background is cluttered through no fault of the photographer, but sufficiently blurred, which draws the viewer's eyes to the sheep. I would suggest the maker crop the bottom to get rid of the specular highlights and tone down the hot spots on the sheep on the left.
Gary Merrick, Freeman Lambs, 22 points.
Interesting photograph, Ron says. Great pose, great narrative. I wonder what his story is. I appreciate the lens was focused primarily on the face and that the corners and edges tend to be a softer focus. All the attention is with a man's face. Very typical of the old pictorial lenses from the late 1800s to early 1900s. I'm not sure what the lighter tone spots are though. Is this a speckled lighting situation? The top of the hat and area around the hat bother me. They give me the impression that something happened that wasn't intentional. I do like the color of the print. It most definitely gives the impression that this might be a very old photograph.
David Grimmer, General Sherman reenactor, 21 points.
Lisa comments, the juxtaposition of the harshness of the brick and fixtures against the smoothness of the model's skin works well here. The tones are handled carefully, although her chest and shoulders are brighter than her face. To improve, make her face just brighter than her chest and shoulders. Tone those down just a tad. Her left hand could use a slight bend at the elbow, and the loss of her fingers gives her the impression of an amputee, perhaps also giving the model the suggestion of an emotion or a feeling as the blank stare is a little disappointing. Perhaps a come hither smile with her eyes, or even a hint of fear based on the background and the story that the maker wants to convey would allow for more impact. The woman is positioned well to give us all of her curves, which again play well against the linear lines of the background. Adding story would be icing on the cake.
Jackie Siuski, Glamour, 22 points.
Tom's comment? Wonderful perspective. I like how the maker was able to get low and include so many interesting snow goblins. Not sure if the maker used HDR to capture the exposure, but if they did not, this would be a good time to do so. The roof could use some more detail brought out.
I don't have a score for that. Oh, there it is. David Grimmer, Ice at Point Bestie, 26 points, first place.
Ron says this is an interesting and artistic photograph. The subject and dramatic light from midtones to black evoke an emotional response. Kind of creepy. I also like the rough edges. Well done.
Graham Stead, is anybody there? 21 points.
Lisa says, the shadows and highlights make for a wonderfully contrasty display of angles. The diagonals lead us down the narrowing path. The image has a lot of impact, but darkening the very bottom bright board and using a darker matte would keep the viewer's eye even more engaged.
Mick Russo, Lock 39 Trailhead Park Bridge, 24 points, third place.
Tom's comment. I love how the maker created a dynamic composition using the building and mountains reflection to tell a nice story. In my opinion, the shadow areas of the photo are too dark. Perhaps use HDR if that was not done.
Bob Kowaleski, Many Glaciers Lodge, 25 points, second place.
Manzanar, Ron says, the Japanese internment camp during World War II. This is another example where strong triangular elements make the photo interesting. Also interesting is the one-point perspective where all the elements lead to one point and the viewer's eyes at the top of the monument. The haze in the distance creates the impression of distance and separation from front to back. Of course, the haze also creates a God's rays, which could be interpreted as being mystical or religious, and that may coincide with the monument. Very good. From a technical perspective, I would try to slightly open up the shadows, particularly the posts and near distance bushes. Not too much though. The dramatic lighting of this photo really works.
David Korosek, Manzanar Cemetery, 25 points, second place.
Lisa says, there is a lot happening in this scene, but the viewer, excuse me, but the viewer is left to guess what the story is or what the center of interest is. The maker has chosen a composition with a lot of tension. The partial car, the partial second-story windows, the partial flag. The people on the far left, especially the young man looking that way and not crossing. Is the shop the center of interest, or is it the crossing sign and the people waiting? To improve, crop and compose rather than clipping. Increase camera stability or use a faster shutter speed to make it sharper, and think about the story you are looking to tell.
Eric Wethington, night photography in Medina, 18 points.
Tom's comment? Very nice photojournalistic image. The image is sharp and well exposed. Although the background is cluttered, the maker did an excellent job composing it so it is minimized. Since these men are holding a picture, it would have been nice to see the image to tell more of the story.
Bryant Muhammad, on the block, 22 points.
Ron says, I like the vertical gray tone lines backdropped with rectangles of black, gray, and white. The vertical lines form diagonals which create a sense of tension. We know the subject are buildings, but at the same time, the image looks like an abstract. I can see this image as a large print hanging on the wall of a modern home or business office.
Mark Hansen, Searching for Spider-Man, 23 points.
The camera angle and lighting and wind-swept sand is delightful, says Lisa. To improve, crop or clone the tiny grass far left in the sky and use a faster shutter speed, as there are two very blurred areas right above the enter grass, which is especially distracting.
Rich Foley, Silver Sands, 22 points.
Tom's comment. I like how the maker chose to create a story using a pair of reading glasses, a book, and a snowy background. It appears to me the book was good, but not good enough to hold the maker's attention because they chose to be outside photographing instead of reading. I would recommend the maker pay attention to the reflection on the far lens and adjust the lighting to eliminate it.
Kim Wasilewski, 24 points, third place.
Very interesting, Ron says. Love the single source light window, beautiful light. There's a story here. Arched ceilings, rectangular windows with bars, multiple beds. Wow. What was this room used for? Great composition. I wouldn't change a thing. Well done.
Gary Merrick, St. Augustine Fort Barracks, 26 points, first place.
Lisa's comment, the maker has chosen a most unusual exposure, leaving us with just hints of texture and the neckline and in the hair. The darkest part of the image is the back of her neck, unfortunately the least interesting part of her. To improve, dodge the back of her neck and her nair, turn the model for a true profile, or dodge the other eye out. The maker does not have to conform to any sense of normal exposure values, as this extreme has impact, but they should be aware of the part of the image they are drawing the viewer to most engage with, and in this case, 3 of the 4 darkest parts are body parts, or are 3 of the 4 darkest parts are body parts of not the most appealing. nair, back of neck, partial eyeball. With slight modifications, this image could be more compelling.
Joe DiStefano, still, 19 points.
Tom's comment. This is a well-exposed image. There's detail in the stone wall and roof. Unfortunately, the image does not have a lot of impact. In cases like this, try looking for small details such as odd shapes, protrusions, metals, root systems, etc.
Kenneth Hubble, Stone Shelter House, 19 points.
Ron says the photographer did a good job creating a path for the viewer's eye to follow. The soft focus creates a dreamy and mysterious feel. The dark sky and deep shadows add to that mood. I typically prefer that my images are in focus from front to back, so my initial response was not favorable. However, after studying the photo, the soft focus and deep shadows make this photo interesting and worth the time to study and appreciate it. This is a very expressive image. Well done.
Rich Foley, Stones on the Dune, 20 points.
Lisa says, the placement of the couple between the two signs conveys the same sense of fun that their poses expressions do. The far right is needed to keep the signs legible, but could be darkened under the sign to distract less. A faster shutter speed would also prevent the blurriness of the couple.
Fran Marino, Streetlight Dancing, 19 points.
Tom's comment. This is an interesting macro close-up image of a plant. The detail is well handled. The image can be improved by not being so dark and isolating parts of the plant. There's no center of interest, and my eye wanders around the frame looking for a place to settle.
Dave Sabork, Tangled, 21 points.
Wow, Ron says. That stairway and wall is just amazing. Even without the model, you could have made a beautiful and expressive image. Great lighting on the model, and I love her pose and facial expression. Her position on the stairway is perfectly located with her body contours mirroring the dark patterns on the wall. This would make a beautiful print. My only recommendation, if you had the opportunity to shoot it again, is that I wish this scarf didn't intercept the stair rail. I would like to see separation between the scarf and railing. Otherwise, I think this is a fabulous image.
Jackie Sayuski, The Beauty and Decay, 23 points.
The skull itself has interest and the shadow is neat, says Lisa, but what makes this image is the fact that the maker noticed that the knots in the wood could be used compositionally to become eyes, making this image have a pareidolia quality where the shadow is also most like a ghost surprised to find itself dead and hanging on the wall. This is a great composition and an image that makes you want to keep looking at it. Well done.
Bill Keaton, The Knots Have Eyes, 25 points, second place.
Tom's comment. Nice photojournalistic image. The image well exposed and subjects do not blend in with the background. I would suggest brightening the pants and, if possible, focus on the details in the jackets.
Bryant Muhammad, The Omens, 22 points.
Nice capture, Ron says. Good bokeh. I think the lion looks a bit too washed out. My recommendation is to reprocess. The contrast looks okay, but the highlights seem too light. By darkening the highlights, more of the detail in the lion's face will be evident.
Debbie Leesky, Thirst Quencher, 22 points.
Lisa says, this image has lots of great texture, lines, curves, and feeling. To improve, more detail in his pants. Liquefy to remove the pointy area that is sticking out of his pants and follows a diagonal of the column. And dodge and burn so that the man's left arm does not get lost on the background. The image has a carved three-dimensional appearance and expressions on both people are wonderful.
Susan Bestel, 2 heads, 1 heart, 26 points, first place.
Tom says, excellent composition. I like the even flow between the silos and the building on the right. I think the sky is perfect for this image as it seems to mimic the horizontal composition. What would make this a stronger image is to open the shadow area on the silos and roof via HDR, etc.
Mike Kopkis, Valley City Barn, 20 points.
Ron says there is so much happening in this photo. Wonderful clouds. The different lighting on the dunes creates separation between the foreground, middle ground, and background dunes, and an overall sense of depth. Very nice. I particularly like the lone dark bush. This is a very nice image. However, I can think of a number of things I would do to make it better. I would darken the bottom of the image. That would help with the overall tonal balance. I would also slightly darken the middle dune or slightly lighten the foreground dune's ridgeline in order to create more separation. I think the clouds, particularly the hovering cloud, are overprocessed. I would reduce the contrast so the clouds look more realistic. The right side dune edge should be slightly darkened to that so the viewer's eyes don't fall off the edge while viewing the photo. In another photo I reviewed, I briefly mentioned why I don't like too dramatic or overly processed photos. Although they can grab a viewer's attention, they tend to cause viewers fatigue in the long term. So, when processing a photo, tread lightly with the contrast.
Jane Sidney, White Sands, 22 points.
Lisa comments, the backlit egret with wings outstretched creates a heavenly impact. The mist rising from the water adds a lot of atmosphere, no pun intended. To improve, tone down some of the specular highlights in the water under the bird.
Terry Martin, Wings of Light, 24 points, third place.
Tom's comment. This is a pleasing image of a jagged mountain range. I like the composition having the tallest part on the right. The God rays coming down make the image dynamic and interesting to view. The clouds complement the overall feel and the tonal range is well handled. Please the sharpness of the dark rocks in the middle of the image below the tallest peak. The area appears smooth and not sharp.
Bob Kowaleski, Zabriskie Point, Death Valley, 26 points, first place.
Ron says this is an amazing photo. The lighting is almost surreal and so many interesting shapes. The tonal values are beautiful, particularly the midtones, perfectly edited.
Natalia Souza, Abu Dhabi, 23 points.
Lisa says, the trio of egrets creates motion, story, and composition, leaving negative space balancing it. Being able to see the eyes would have been a plus, but the story is effective with the three birds. To improve, try flipping the image. Since we read left to right, this would be stronger with the birds on the left and the negative space on the right.
Terry Martin, Egret Convergence, 22 points.
Tom's comment. Very serene image. I just love the tonal range in this picture. The maker did a great job composing the horses and the mountain range in one image. I would recommend the maker bring out more detail in the blacks of the horses. The horse on the left appears to be a silhouette.
David Korosek, Grand Teton Horses, 24 points, third place.
Ron says this is a perfectly exposed image. Love the subdued lighting that is perfectly suited for this scene. I can see detail in the candle flame. Wow. Absolutely beautiful image. I have no recommendations on how to improve this.
Kim Wojciechowski, Happy Diwali, 22 points.
Wonderful frozen water, says Lisa. The snow exposure is handled well. Snow can be hard to photograph. The image is cropped well and the long icicles are dramatic. To improve, perhaps try HDR to bring out all of the details in the highlights.
Jill Zabka, Ice on Bedford Falls, 20 points.
Tom's comment. I like how the maker made this image in black and white. The zebra is sharp and detailed. I'd like to suggest that the maker crop some sky and bottom parts of the image, making it into a panorama.
Debbie Leesky, Looking, 23 points.
Ron says this is an interesting photograph. Fantastic lighting. The subject looks to me like an abandoned prison. If the walls could talk, the stories they would tell would no doubt be shocking. Excellent use of near to far in focus. The catwalk is light and leads the viewer's eyes to the end where there appears to be another doorway. What's beyond the doorway, I wonder? The prison cell doors are open and I imagine hardened prisoners on their way to the mess hall or the yard. The harshness of the photo, due partly to the photographer's editing, is suited for this scene. The only thing I think I would do to improve this image would be slightly open up the shadows. I particularly want to see the detail in that dilapidated ceiling. It's so interesting. Well done.
Susan Bestel, Mansfield Reformatory, 20 points.
Lisa says, an interesting find. The starkness of the light over the door and the wires hanging down tells a story. To improve, HDR to prevent the highlights from getting blown out and composing without clipping, especially the left with the pale piece.
Eric Wethington, Medina Alley, 20 points.
Tom's comment. This is a well-exposed image. The profile is sensitive and contemplative. There's a lots of detail in the fur and the eyes. You can see an almost human quality. I would suggest toning down the brighter areas on the subject and in the background.
Joe Smith, Old Soul, 22 points.
Such a beautiful scene, Ron says. Dreamlike. The panoramic aspect ratio works well with this photo. As beautiful as the scene is, I'm not sure that black and white works here. Most of the tones are very similar, so it lacks the dynamic tonal range that makes successful black and white photographs. I would love to see the color version.
Joseph Miko, Reflection, 19 points.
Lisa says, texture, emotion, and sharpness and intrigue. Wow, how neat is this image? This is wonderfully done and could be in the Rorschach test. The maker displayed excellence in composition, exposure, shutter speed, etc. Just lovely.
Mark Hansen, River Ice, 24 points, third place.
Tom's comment. This is an overall nice image of a couple swooning in front of a structure, creating a pleasing silhouette. In my opinion, the image should be cropped to only include the swooning couple's upper body, the lit structure, and the street light.
Fran Marino, So Happy, 20 points.
Ron says an interesting photograph that appears to defy gravity. Why isn't the water level when the glasses are? Why isn't the water level when the glasses are? Obviously done intentionally by the photographer, but then the photographer uses different lighting for each glass, which makes this image even more intriguing. Very thoughtful.
Chris Bosworth, Splish Splash, 20 points.
Lisa says, the rocks and trees are intriguing, and I could see how they could capture the photographer's eye. To improve, a faster shutter speed, more depth of field, and more contrast as the tones are muted.
Kenneth Hubble, Whips Ledges, 19 points.
Tom's comment. I like the subject matter and the choice to compete. The use of 3 items does not clutter what the maker wants the viewer to see and interpret. I would add more light on the skull, as that seems to be the key component of this image.
Graham Stead, Who Knows Where the Time Goes, 21 points.
Ron says so much comes to mind when observing this photograph. Who is this man? Is he a soldier or model? He looks like he's been through hell and back. You can see it in his eyes. The harsh editing of this photograph is well suited. The background is dark and uncluttered so that all the viewer's attention is directed to our soldier. Very well done.
Joe DiStefano, World War II paratrooper, 24 points, third place.
And that concludes our black and white, and we will go on now to pictorial.
Lisa says, the triangles allow the viewer's eye to zig and zag from place to place. The lights and darks have detail, and the shadows help make the image more interesting.
Hold on a second, please. Let me look at this for a second. This is the no comment portion of the pictorial.
Oh.
I apologize. I will let you know when we get to the comment images. This is Jerry Pano, A Salute to Autumn, 24 points, honorable mention. My fault, guys. I apologize. Terry Martin, Canadian Rockies, Dreamscape, 27 points, first place.
Is he here?
Is Terry here?
Terry's here. Don't we want to give him something?
Yeah.
That is for those of you at home, Dave Tripp is going back into the magic closet there, looking for a trinket.
Was there a name of the location? Canadian Rock?
There we go.
Near Jasper, Medicine Lake.
Congratulations. There is a ribbon for a perfect score.
Graham Stead, 22 points. Susan Mahoric, 21 points.
You have titles?
Going to give the titles of these.
Yes. I'm shook because I didn't have the 27.
27 shook you up there.
Yeah, I didn't have the
This
27.
Gramstead,
27
going back
Ribbon
again,
Levitt.
this was Terry Martin, Canadian Rockies Dreamscape,
Yeah.
and this one is Gramstead, Come Play With Us.
I should have had the ribbon ready beforehand. I'm going to get my hands slapped later on by Mr. Keaton. Yeah. Susan Bestel, Everyday Magic, 22 points. I'm back on track.
I think we're... okay. Are we on? Let's check this now. This was when Gramstead, Come Play With Us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One before that was Gramstead, Come Play With Us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we did this. This was Susan Mahorsick. Susan Bestel, Everyday Magic. Okay. So we're...
Joseph Miko, Gracefully Aged Leaf, 24 points, honorable mention. John Harford, Leaf Cutter B, 24 points, honorable mention. Jerry Pano, Leaving the Past Behind, 22 points. Leslie Nutt, My Favorite Tree, 22 points. Ron Werman, Plateau Trail, 24 points, honorable mention. Kenneth Hubble, Princess Ledges, 19 points. Marge Brady, Protecting the Cowboy, 23 points. Joe Smith, Rapture, 26 points, second place. Susan Mahorek, Ravenel Bridge, Charleston, South Carolina, 24 points, honorable mention. John Harford, Red-Breasted Merganser, 23 points. Jill Zabka, Riding Through Town, 20 points. Eric Wethington, Rock and Roll, 21 points. Joe DiStefano, Staircase Abstract, 25 points, third place. Kim Wasilewski, Stink Eye, 20 points. Mick Russo, Terminal Tower at Sundown, 20 points. Leslie Nutt, The Guardian, 25 points, third place. Debbie Leesky, The Masked Bandit, honorable mention. Jill Zabka, Wedding Doll, 19 points. David Korosek, Whitney Portal Road, 20 points. Okay, gentlemen, we are now into the comment drawings, or comment photos, excuse me.
Lisa says the triangles allow the viewer's eye to zig and zag from place to place. The lights and darks have detail, and the shadows help make the image more interesting.
Bob Kowaleski, Angels Shadows, Washington, 22 points.
Tom's comment. This is a good use of incorporating vertical and horizontal lines to keep the viewer's attention. The image is well composed and edited well. There's just the right amount of clouds in the sky. Perhaps use HRD to tone down the highlights on the far right roof.
Mike Kopkis, Angles, 22 points.
Ron says this is a wonderful photograph. I love the beautiful midtones and detail in the fern's leaves. Perfectly rendered. I've seen many photographs of ferns and they're usually arranged the same, so much that ferns photographed to me have become a cliche. But the arrangement here is unique and it works. Congratulations to the photographer for finding a unique composition and producing a beautiful photograph.
Dave Sabork, At the Garden, 25 points, third place.
Lisa says the tones and mood and story are very well done. To improve, in camera, try to have the main subject in focus and not clipped. Also try flipping it in post as we read left to right, and the in-focus flamingo clipped off, we are led out of the frame, while flipping it would lead us into the frame with the in-focus bird.
Bill Keaton, Flamingo Duo, 24 points, honorable mention.
Tom's comment. This is a lovely picture of a frog. The frog's well exposed, but has some hot spots. Watch for the unneeded shadow crossing over its nose. I would crop the blade of grass on the right. The picture is grainy, so watch the ISO, etc. Grain is okay for some things, but not frogs.
John Harford, Green Frog, 21 points.
Ron says it's a great idea to position the model with her back to the camera. You begin to wonder why she's facing away and seemingly looking outward with no connection to the photographer. I might crop this photo on the left, right, and sky so that the model becomes the primary interest.
Leslie Nutt, Homage, Krista's World, 21 points.
The maker of this image saw something fun and vibrant and did a great job capturing it, says Lisa. The red adds to the image. To improve, try using geometry in Adobe Camera Raw or the Develop module for the blue panes. FYI, try to catch and send back for resubmission images with makers' names.
Ron Werman, Key Tower Reflection, 21 points.
Tom says, love this hummingbird picture. The great portrait is very complimentary. The bonus is seeing the ant at the end of its beak. Most of the background is great, but there appears to be an editing error located below the beak and the right side.
Marge Brady, Lesser Violeteer, 25 points, third place.
I love this photo, Ron says. It's a composite, ? He looks happy and enjoying the inclemental weather. Overall, a great idea and well executed. My only recommendation is to re-edit the doggy so that he looks like he belongs in the foreground and background scene, unless you like it this way.
Jackie Siewski, My Finnegan, perfect score, 27 points, first place. Jackie, are you here? Jackie's not here. We will get the reward to you.
Lisa says, what a neat find. The cool tones against the warm tones in the rock work well, and the curve guides us gently through the image. The photo is slightly overexposed. Perhaps taking 3 exposures and creating a tone-mapped image would make the details pop more, especially in the highlights.
Jane Sidney, Pueblo, 26 points, second place.
Tom's comment. Awesome picture. Love the Milky Way reflecting off the water. I'd suggest cropping out the Milky Way reflecting in the water because it's not sharp. Try setting the camera's white balance between 3200 and 3800.
David Grimmer, Redfish Lake at Night, 24 points, honorable mention.
Ron says a beautiful mountain scene. Since this is a grandiose scene with mountains, sky, clouds, a prairie, and trees that the photographer decided were important elements to include, I would try to render those elements in their best light. For example, the line of trees look dark and uninteresting. Opening the shadows will make a huge difference. The blue cast of the clouds and mountains is an indication that the white balance is off. Adjust the white balance and those clouds and mountains will pop.
Rich Foley, Rockies, 22 points.
Lisa says, the maker found a way to be in a good place for this color sun and sky. Perhaps cropping some off of the left and bottom would add more impact.
Gary Merrick, Sunrise, Bushnell, Florida, 19 points.
Tom's comment. This image has strong visual impact due to the interesting design of the building, chimneys, and the bright saturated colors. The sky has lovely white wavy clouds that seem to complement the building. The dolls in the window make great window props. The composition's well handled, except that the left corner of the building is cut off. The blue in the sky is over polarized.
Glenn Paternick, Twisted Chimneys, 24 points. Honorable mention.
Ron says this is a great picture of a bear. I believe he's enjoying the bath, or maybe he's fishing for salmon. These are just some of the questions that enter the viewer's mind. I like that the shutter speed was slow enough so that there's motion in the water. I would darken the bright areas on the left side a bit so that the viewer's eyes aren't constantly drawn to that area. It's human nature to be attracted to shiny things. Our goal as photographers is to control the light so that the viewer's interest is drawn to where the photographer wants it to be. In this photo, it's the bear's face that is most interesting.
Bryant Muhammad, Wet and Wild, 24 points. Honorable mention.
What an awesome mushroom, says Lisa. The texture is amazing, and the maker chose a great camera angle low to the ground. The detail in the mushroom and ground is fabulous. To improve, tone down the specular highlights in the sky. Cropping might now be advised here as the trees add scale so we know exactly how large this mushroom is.
Jerry Pano, Wither, 24 points. Honorable mention. And that concludes this evening's competition.
Thank you all very much for coming and for entering. And congratulations, Terry Martin and Jackie Siuski, for the perfect scores tonight. We'll see you next week.